Drives, floats, hangs, and scores on the turnaround. J-Dub way behind the three-point line, and Hicks way behind the three-point line. Got blocked, what a rejection by Holmgren. Standing tall like a wall.
This is Bart. You're listening to the Uncontested.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Uncontested Post-Game Podcast. I'm your host for tonight, Justin, as the Thunder fall to the Houston Rockets 125-111. We are proudly part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network and brought to you by Prairie Artisan Ales. I'm joined tonight by a couple of fellas. First, Mr. Fella himself, JD Silva.
Fellas.
So epic. So epic. And speaking of epic, Taylor Peterson is here.
That's what they call me, Epic Taylor Peterson. Actually,
who's they?
That was the first time I've ever been called Epic.
That's
what they call me, Taylor Peterson.
Before we dive in, if you're not already, make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcast. The playoffs are coming. You're not going to want to miss out. YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, you name it. Make sure you subscribe. Follow us on the socials. And if you haven't yet, join the Patreon. We were hanging out in the Discord, as always, with the degenerates tonight. And, misery loves company. So tonight, the degenerates came in handy. Got a little work out of the Meltdown channel, which hadn't been used in a while, but we dusted off that channel.
You sound like Game of Thrones there, Justin. The playoffs are coming.
Playoffs are coming.
Speaking of which, you made some incredible graphics there. What year was that now? 26?
Whenever Game of Thrones was cool.
2019. I'm trying to think.
Yeah, it was probably 2019. That was probably when it was. Yeah, there's a theme. Usually, come playoff time, I like to pick a theme and make some graphics, usually tied to a pop culture moment. Last year, we had the Dune posters.
Which were awesome. This
year, there's something else in the works. You guys got a little sneak preview of that today.
Which are also awesome. Very excited for it to drop.
Something you had in the works that is out to the public, Justin. This shirt that Taylor's wearing. Holy shit.
I didn't even notice he was wearing it. The post-game vibes. Look at TP repping the brand. Cool. Post-game vibe shirt is blowing up.
It's also bad luck because the first game I wear it, we get blown out for the fourth double-digit loss of the season. So, just saying.
So, don't buy the shirt is what Taylor's saying. A ringing endorsement. No, but if you don't believe in superstition, you should pick up the shirt. It is already in like 5 days, it is our best-selling shirt of all time. So, thank you to everybody that has bought one. That's incredible. And my dream is that someone will put it on Nick Gallo at some point, and I am going to manifest that.
That would be amazing. Caleb in the chat wants a JD Silva plushie.
He's been asking for that for a month or so now.
We could look into that. Might be more expensive, tariffs and whatnot, but we'll try to make it happen.
Yep. Also, a little concerned about the reasonings behind wanting that plushie, but we'll move on.
Yep.
What's a grown man to do with another plushie of a grown man? Anyway, we have a game to talk about.
We do.
The Thunder, like Taylor said, lose by double digits to the Rockets in Houston. Not a stellar performance for the Western Conference NBA leading Oklahoma City Thunder as they fall to 64-13, just to put things in perspective. 64-13 to the second place Houston Rockets, who are now sitting at 51-27. Not the most fun game to watch. Houston went out to a lead pretty early and just stayed there. This was mostly a double-digit game all night long. There was a stretch early in the fourth where Oklahoma City cut it to single digits, but really the Thunder came out and just looked sluggish, looked a step slow. Houston was hitting everything. Oklahoma City was turning the ball over. It felt like the opposite of what we usually see, where it's the Thunder forcing the other team to turn the ball over. Houston made him pay all night long. So I don't want to do a recap. So I'm not going to go play by play on this thing because, like I said, Houston just kind of controlled it all night long. So instead, big takeaways. And I think at this point in the season, it's hard to look at a single game on the schedule and draw massive conclusions, right? Like we've seen 77 games of Thunder basketball up to this point. To make lots of drastic conclusions based off one game would be negligent. But curious your guys' thoughts. Anything you saw tonight, good or bad, that you think could be relevant come playoff time? Something that concerns you, a weakness, or a bright spot, something positive that you saw tonight. I'll open it up.
To your point, Justin, obviously the Thunder will not be able to beat the Houston Rockets in a playoff series, and this is why no team in the West fears the Thunder. I'm just predicting the national headlines. And
you heard it here first.
The first take debates that are going to happen tomorrow with NFL Hall of Famer
Marcus Morris.
NFL, not NBA. Yeah, Marcus Morris and Shannon Sharp, and they'll go back and forth.
Yeah, sounds super great to watch.
But in all seriousness, putting this into perspective, obviously a very frustrating loss. Didn't feel like the Thunder, we'll get into all the reasons that the Thunder didn't play to their style of play and why the Houston Rockets did a really good job, especially defending the Thunder tonight, I thought. But from Nick Gallo, who tweeted this out right after the game, this is the Thunder's first road loss since the All-Star break.
That's wild.
That's crazy.
And to the comment I made at the top of the podcast, this is just the Thunder's fourth double-digit loss all season.
And I think third loss since the All-Star break total.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. First road loss and third total since the All-Star break.
Wild.
Just to put things into perspective, it's not time to freak out, even though everybody on social media is hoping to do so because everybody's out to get the Thunder and say that this is why Lou Dort's not depoy and this is why Shea shouldn't be MVP. All the narratives have been very frustrating to see here over the past couple of weeks because the Thunder have been so dominant and Shea's been so dominant. And that's why games like tonight kind of suck to watch because we haven't seen a lot of these throughout the entirety of the season.
Yep.
But there are some, I think, some real things to break down from this game. And the big thing that stands out to me is the Thunder just didn't play to their style of play. The three-point shots, I mean, they've been, I think, the sixth best three-point team all season. And yet we've seen them go through streaks where they aren't hitting their three-point shots. We didn't do a post-game Wednesday night, so we can kind of tie in Wednesday night's game against the Pistons into this as well. They didn't hit their shots. I think they were still only 30-something% from three against the Pistons. But one thing they did do is they locked in defensively. They got turnovers. They pushed the pace in transition. They got more points in turnovers, off turnovers than the opposing team did, and more fast break points. Tonight was the absolute opposite, and I promise I'll stop talking after this and get off my soapbox. But Thunder had 15 turnovers to the Rockets 13. They cleaned that up in the second half, but I believe the Thunder had 9 in the first half. They only had 21 points off those turnovers to the Rockets 23, and the Rockets had more points in transition, 19 to the Thunder's 18. They doubled up on points in transitions against the Thunder. Like, that's how you beat this team. So you have to credit the Rockets, their defenders. I'm kind of curious your guys' thoughts about how the way the Rockets defended the Thunder tonight, and not why that may be a reason for concern, but like, where did they find success and why?
This felt to me like a pretty obvious energy discrepancy game where the Rockets were playing at home. They're the kind of the Thunder of last year, this year, where they're the young team that nobody wants to go there and play because they just out effort you at home, especially play really hard. They have a ton of athletes, and the Thunder are 64-13 and have really nothing to play for in this last week of the season. And some of the team just kind of took their foot off the gas. Like, you didn't get the usual energy from like the Bulldogs of the team, the Lou Dort, Alex Caruso, Cason Wallace. They didn't really give anything offensively. SGA was a little bit out of rhythm for a lot of the game until the end. But to put a positive spin on this game, I have been a little not concerned, but something that's been in the back of my mind. J-Dub and Chet have obviously dealt with injuries at various points in this season. Chet for a long time, J-Dub here recently just for a short stretch. I wanted to see them hit their offensive stride heading into the playoffs in a game, just to see that they can do it, because that's going to be the main topic as we do our postseason previews is like, where are they offensively? Are they going to show up? And tonight they did. J-Dub dropped 33 points. Chet dropped 20 points and a career high 6 3-pointers. So if you're going to have a positive takeaway, mine is it's good to see those guys do that. That show that they can do that.
I totally agree. I thought J-Dub's game tonight was pretty excellent. 33 points, as you mentioned, in 34 minutes. 13 of 21 from the floor, 2 of 3 from behind the arc, with 3 boards and 4 assists to go with it. I thought he looked aggressive.
From the free throw line, Justin. To your
and
point
5
about
of 6 from
rustiness.
the free throw line. He looked aggressive. He looked decisive. He looked like everything you would want to see out of Dub in a playoff game or a playoff series, right? Like that's the type of performance, especially on a night where Shea kind of had an off night. If not for Dub, this game looks a lot uglier, which is crazy because it kind of looked ugly anyway. I thought Dub was excellent. And Taylor, if you agree, I'm going to go ahead and rip the Band-Aid and say that J-Dub, King of the Prairie. Yeah, I got a fist pump from Silva. J-Dub, King of the Prairie tonight, I think pretty clearly. He was the leading scorer for the Thunder. He was the second leading scorer in the game behind Jalen Green. He, like I said, he looked decisive on offense, which is not something he's always looked at times this season. I thought a really strong game from J-Dub.
Agree completely. Shout out our friends over at Prairie Artisan Ales. Justin is currently drinking a buzzer beater.
A little buzzer beater.
That's the blue flavored.
The blue Gatorade sour, which, by the way, I love the way they describe it. I was reading it tonight as I cracked it open. Sour ale with natural flavors and FD&C blue #1.
And then the fourth quarter.
Shout out RFK Jr.
Is the yellow. Yeah, I was going to say, makes me feel really great drinking those when I read that, but they're fantastic. You all should certainly do that. Also, be sure to go over to our friends at Prairie. They have their tap room in OKC. Perfect spot for a playoff game, an away game.
Final Four game coming up. Yep. That's a good point, Justin. Tomorrow night. We're recording this on a Friday. But stay tuned because we're working on a playoff watch party. Yeah.
So be sure to come in and stay tuned for some more details there. That being said, I think J-Dub absolutely deserves this award. 33 points, like you mentioned, 13-21 from the floor. Only 2 of 3 from 3, which I like. He hit his threes, his limited threes, but he was attacking. He was aggressive. He was getting to his spots. There was that play, I think, where he drove there in the third quarter, where it just seemed like the possession was completely dead. This is when Shea was off the court. And he had like 3 different defenders switch onto him. He somehow is able to drive to the rim, do a reverse and under, get the finish. I mean, he really kept the game as close as it was there, I think, in the third and fourth. You mentioned a couple different times, Justin, they got it down to 9 points, and that was largely due to J-Dub. So huge J-Dub game. That's great to see.
Another guy that you mentioned, Silva, Chet, career high 6 3-pointers tonight, 6 of 8 from behind the arc. He had 5. Was it in the first half? Did he have 5, or am I hallucinating?
I think it was in the first half.
He came out.
Both
I think the first basket of the game was a Chet 3. He looked comfortable and, again, really confident from behind the 3-point line. Saw Taylor shared a tweet from a Rockets blog that said, "Are we sure that Wemby's better than Chet?" And just chef's kiss, no notes.
That's always fun to see.
Yeah, always fun to see. But
don't go and look at the rest of their tweets from tonight. But that one was great.
We'll take that one. Really nice to see from Chet. To your point, Taylor, not knowing what to get from Chet, especially returning from the injury. Anybody who's watched this team knows that the Chet post injury has not looked the same as he did before the injury. He's not 100%. He's not fully back. And I think that, thinking bigger picture, what Chet do we get in the playoffs consistently? We can always get this Chet that we got tonight on any given night. He can go off. He's an offensive talent. He's so skilled. But how often can the Thunder count on it? I think that's one of the big questions I'll be watching as this team heads into the playoffs. What type of performance do we get from Chet night in and night out, especially on the offensive end? I thought a really great job by Chet scoring the ball tonight. Defensively, up and down. I thought Şengün got the best of him on a handful of plays. Şengün looked more physical for most of the night, kind of bodied Chet around. The good news is I feel like anytime we've seen Chet get out physicaled, he comes back in the next game and looks like a different human being.
Out physical sounds like a Taylorism there.
Out physicaled.
Yeah.
Is there? I don't know if there's a better word for that, but
so I want to run this by you. I'm going to push back a bit, Justin. It was great to see Chet find his outside shot, and I think that's going to be huge moving forward. But that's about the only thing he had going tonight. Chet was 6 of 8 from 3. He was 6 of 10 from the floor. He did not score a 2-point attempt tonight. He was not aggressive enough down low against Şengün, not only offensively, but also defensively. I thought he absolutely got cooked. I understand that he had 2 blocks. He also had 2 turnovers and 4 personal fouls. Him and Dort, the 2 anchors of this defense when healthy, they both really, really struggled. We can get into Dort. It was promising for me to see Chet get that going offensively because it's a marathon, not a sprint. I hate using that overused analogy, but it's true. Like, I think eventually we're going to see Chet string some games together where he's more complete from 3, battling down low, and obviously is defending at a high level like we've seen since he's come back from injury. But Silva, I thought he really struggled. The 3-point shots really saved him tonight. I didn't think it was all that great of a Chet game.
Yeah, we haven't, since he's come back from injury, we haven't gotten a ton of complete Chet games. Like, you usually get a superb defensive game and a little bit of offense. And tonight was like, you got the 3-point shot, but you were lacking in other areas. So I agree. I don't know how he's going to look in the playoffs. This was always kind of a concern when he missed 2/3 of the season, essentially. I hope he plays the remaining games heading into the playoffs. Like, I would love that, just to keep getting the conditioning up. I don't know if someone in his situation, like, can his condition, say the Thunder make it to the Western Conference Finals, will playing all those games have helped him? Or is it because that playoff intensity and the frequency of the games, is that just going to wear him down even more? I don't know. I'm sure the Thunder have thought about that a ton. It's something I'm kind of thinking about, because you can see him getting gassed pretty early in games, because he, slender guy, obviously has to play very hard and be very physical. And yeah, playing against a guy like Şengün, like, if the playoffs started today, I think iHeart would be the guy matched up on Şengün much more often in a series like this. And you'd put Chet on whoever their 4 is, whether you put Chet on a Dylan Brooks or a Tari Eason or a Jabari Smith, probably, to keep him off of Şengün and to keep him from getting bodied all the time.
To that note, I thought Hart was pretty awful against Şengün too.
Yeah,
exactly.
Şengün just looked like he had Hart on a string, like just a little bit, half a step ahead of Hart, whether it was a fake to the left and then a roll back to the right, or a jab step, like whatever it is, he was getting Hart wherever he wanted. And that was a little disappointing too. I think, to your point, you would expect Hart's physicality to be a factor there. Didn't look great tonight. Nobody looked great against Şengün, but it was a little disappointing to see Hart not be able to keep up with Şengün a little bit better than what we saw.
I came into this post game thinking that iHeart played one of the worst games I've seen this season in a Thunder jersey, and yet he had 16.7 rebounds, 4 assists, 8 of 9 from the floor. He had a steal and 2 blocks. Like, you look at that stat line, that sounds great, but like you said, Justin, I thought he got absolutely cooked. There were times tonight that I thought Mark really should have gone to more of the small ball lineups we've seen, over the past couple of games, putting Kaysen and Caruso in, right? Or we saw Jalen Williams come in pretty early in that first quarter when iHeart was struggling. can't help but wonder if tonight was one of those games with the first seed locked up, all the, all the other factors that Mark just wanted more data points on the double big lineup, and also a really solid Houston Rockets team that Thunder may see in the playoffs at some point. Maybe you don't want to show them some of those other lineups and for them to get more data.
100%.
Don't mean for that to be an excuse, but that's kind of how tonight felt to me.
Yeah, you're not going to play your Houston Rockets specific death lineup and it's to win this game of all games. Like you hold that for the playoff series, because I have concerns about Şengün in a playoff series holding up defensively, especially, and the Thunder didn't try to exploit that really tonight.
Well, and especially when the Rockets are shooting red hot, right? Like Şengün had 31 points on 11 and 21 from the floor. Jalen Green had 34 points on 11 and 24 from the floor. We saw him kind of destroy the Thunder at this time last year during the regular season. The Rockets were just red hot. The Thunder weren't locked in defensively, and that's kind of what it comes down to.
Also a weird one because this was their 5th meeting this season because of the play-in tournament, or the the NBA Cup. 5th meeting. That doesn't happen often. So to your point, Thunder probably had enough, right? Like if you want to put on Thunder-colored glasses, you could absolutely spin that argument out of this game. I think the Rockets also came in with something to prove. They're in second place. They're a ways back, but they're in second place, and they want to show that they can take on anybody. And I think mentally this game probably went far for obviously the fan base, but also I think the team organization as well. One of the things tonight that concerns me a little bit heading into the playoffs, and I'm going to wrap it up under the bow of the non-Shea offense, because I feel like that's a bigger topic that we've been talking about all season. The non-Shea offense, the non-Shea play period tonight was not great. But looking up and down the bench, just really no valuable contributions from anybody on the Thunder bench. You had 18 points off the Thunder bench, 8 of those from Wiggins, and everybody else had 1 basket.
And one of those, Brandon Carlson had 3 there in garbage time when he got in. So you can kind of take that one out.
Right. And then pulling it up even further, you had 2 points from Lou Dort as well. Again, another guy that has got to be able to show up. 0 of 4 from behind the arc for Lou Dort. 0 of 2 for Alex Caruso. 0 of 3 for Cason Wallace. 2 of 5 for Aaron Wiggins. Rough shooting for anybody not named Chet from behind the arc tonight, basically. I think that's been the biggest question for this team. It's hard to have a lot of questions when you're 64-13. But if you need to find a question, who can step up consistently? There's a lot of guys that can step up on any given night. But what happens, right? We always talk about this team is deep enough that someone's going to step up every night. Yeah. Tonight was an example of what happens when nobody steps up, right? Like nobody is somebody. Nobody on this bench is like a guaranteed microwave, like 15 points off the bench scorer that
it was Wiggins.
That some great teams have. Right. Wiggins is up there. Queso has been doing that lately. But tonight was an example of what happens when nobody steps up.
Yeah, Joe would be he was out, obviously.
That's what I wanted to touch on, Silva. Yeah. I think you teed that up perfectly, Justin. We've seen this with certain players on this team, and Aaron Wiggins and Isaiah Joe specifically off the bench. You could throw Kenrich Williams in there as well, I think. But and obviously Cason Wallace, he starts sometimes, he doesn't others. Caruso kind of in the same boat, but we know what we're getting from him.
Yep.
But like the past two games, like we talked about tonight and the game Wednesday against the Pistons, the Thunder haven't shot the ball well from 3. Prior to that, they're blowing out teams because they're shooting the ball fantastically from 3. But there's always somebody who steps up. And on a night like tonight, and it's kind of weird to say this because I think Isaiah Joe is also a hot and cold shooter throughout the majority of the season, but they really missed his floor spacing, especially in that second unit. And so no worries about Isaiah Joe long-term. I don't think he was on the injury report like last minute this morning. It was definitely an Isaiah Joe rest game after he's played so much recently. But I think the Thunder really missed Isaiah Joe in that second unit. And I agree. It is a concern that you don't have a consistent player off the bench who can come in and put up 20 points or whatever it is. But we've seen Aaron Wiggins do it, right? We've seen even guys like Jay Will do it in certain stints. And obviously Isaiah Joe. I think when you're fully healthy, that's going to be key. But to your question, Justin, I'll flip this back to you and to Silva. Like, is that a concern in the playoffs? If teams are focusing in on or just let Shea and Dub do what they can and make them beat you, is that a concern if other players aren't stepping up?
I think it is. That is kind of the concern to me going into the playoffs, is because teams are going 100% going to say the other guys have to beat us. That will happen. And I think performances like tonight are fortunately the outlier, at least from the regular season that we've seen. There's usually one, oftentimes two guys that step up from the bench. And you can just kind of pick two at random almost. It could be Kenrich Williams and Kaysen Wallace one night. It could be Caruso and Joe. There's so many combinations of guys. Sometimes Jay Will come off the bench and hit 4 threes out of nowhere. Like something usually happens. And tonight they reached into the grab bag and pulled out jack shit. And that has unfortunately, I don't know if you guys probably remember this, that has unfortunately happened a lot going into Houston the last 3 years.
Do we think that's like it is Houston nightlife undefeated? Do we think that's the factor at play here?
Those James Harden strip clubs are undefeated.
I think they're in the lockers. They have like steam machines set up, but like, and they're putting out like transparent steam that has like NyQuil in it or something like in those lines, like a light sedative.
Steam.
Silva, can we get the Alex Jones sounder that you have?
Do I have that?
There it is. That's it.
It's unbelievable.
Thank you. That was great.
Maybe the rims are bent.
I do think
Fertitta does have his restaurants like
Fertitta.
Tillman Fertitta.
God dang, Bubba Gump's Shrimp Shack.
Yeah, he's got all of his restaurants popping up, as advertisements. I mean, I can see it. But just
anyway.
One thing. Sorry, you go ahead.
Put all that extra MSG in that shrimp.
What was the name of Fertitta's book?
He had a book?
Was like, he's got a book. It was the dumbest title.
Shut up and listen.
Shut up and listen.
Hard business truths that will help you succeed. Thank you.
Shut up and listen.
MSG and the shrimp was point number 1 in that book.
Yep.
You're telling me the shrimp is in Madison Square Garden? Anyway, back to the point we were making. I do think the depth is still an asset. I think it's just, it's a different way. It's a different type of bench where you don't have that, like, you can count on this guy to come in and bring X number of points every night. But same issues apply, right? The one night that guy gets shut down, other teams crumble. The depth gives you more bites at the apple, more opportunities for guys that can step up, more combinations of guys that can step up. So while it might be a concern because you don't have somebody that you feel like you can always count on, the number of guys, to your point, Taylor, like the list that you brought up just kept going and going of guys who have done it this year, and not just like once, like they've done it a number of times. That breeds some confidence heading into the playoffs. It's a lot harder to shut down Isaiah Joe and Kaysen Williams and Aaron Wiggins and Alex Caruso and Jay Will. What did I say? Kaysen Williams. Kaysen Wallace.
Like me. He might as well be a Williams the way he's contributing and scoring and defending. It was pretty cool for those of you who listen to Old Man the 3 podcast today. They dropped the podcast with Caruso and J-Dub. And Caruso said his nickname for Kaysen is All-State because he has the best hands on the team, which I thought was great. But one other thing when you think about, or one other thing, I think when we're talking about the playoffs like this, Justin, not just like guys off the bench stepping up, the non-big 3 stepping up, but the Thunder have struggled this season against teams that have the length and athletic ability to defend, like the Rockets, the Timberwolves, like those kind of teams do. That's where we saw Shea struggle. He had 10 points right off the bat in the first quarter. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is the Shea game. He came in with the insane hoodie where he was like, he could see through his hood. He's about to secure the MVP.
Looked like a Mortal Kombat character.
Yeah.
He unfortunately was not, and he disappeared after
no
that first
points
quarter.
in the second quarter.
Terrible.
Weird.
22 points tonight for Shea. Just an off night from him. But I think you have to credit the Rockets because they have so many versatile defenders that they can throw at him with that athleticism and length. And that is where you need, like when you're playing those kind of teams, you need guys like the Isaiah Joes and the Wiggins and other stuff we've talked about to be able to step up.
Yep. It's a cliche. Yeah, he is.
Ahmed was awesome.
It's a cliche, but it really did just feel like the Rockets out-energied the Thunder, which not many teams have done this year, right? Like the Thunder don't ever look like they're checked out for a game. Tonight might have been one of the first occasions this season where it just kind of felt that way for most of the game. The Rockets looked more locked in on both ends of the floor, defensively, mucking up passing lanes, getting their hands in between what the Thunder was trying to do, making things difficult, and offensively, not as crisp on rotations, settling for some three-pointers at times, which we're not falling. Just not what we've seen from this Thunder team through 76 prior games most of the time. They had the Thunder off their game. And I think that's, if you're looking for a silver lining, can the Rockets do that for 7 games? I don't think so.
Jalen Green especially has not done this that's his whole thing is that he can't do this.
Oh, I just saw
and
that.
If they can, then they probably deserve to go to the finals.
Yeah.
Right? Like if a team can make the Thunder look this out of sorts for 7 games, then they deserve whatever achievements they get. But I think that's a tall task. And the fact that, again, these teams have played 5 times this season. The Thunder have won 2. And the Thunder won 3. And they looked pretty dominant in some of those games.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember exactly what the stat was that I saw tonight, Silva, but basically the Rockets have only lost 1 game when Jalen Green scores 30-plus points. And maybe that's kind of like our last big takeaway from tonight's game, but Lou Dort really struggled.
Yeah.
Trying to get back to my stats, but
and Caruso and Kaysen, right?
That's a great point.
It
wasn't just Lou.
See that often.
All the perimeter, point of attack perimeter defenders really struggled. It seems like Lou does kind of struggle against more players like a Jalen Green, and we've talked about this in comparison to the James Hardens and Luka Doncic, right? Like the explosive, fast switch guys, exactly.
Mm.
Yeah, yep. Lou handles the big boys, the thick boys. Yeah, Jalen.
Shout out Skip Bayless last night.
Jalen Green's whole thing is like every stat you see is like for the last 3 games he's averaging this, but you can't go beyond 3 games or else it won't look as good. That's
exactly
his whole shtick, so
exactly.
Kind of wild. The Thunder had only had 8 players go for 30 points on them this season, and the Rockets had 2 tonight.
Wow.
One of them is Fred.
No.
Right?
Well, previously, yes.
Yeah.
Not tonight. Fred only had 13. Tonight, it was Jalen Green with 34 and Şengün with 31.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of crazy. Again, something that probably doesn't feel like it happens on a repeatable basis.
Or in a 7-game series.
And SGA doesn't score 20, doesn't have a game like this most of the time.
Inefficient. Yep. Off. Any other thoughts on the Rockets game? I feel like we should touch briefly on the Pistons game also. Oklahoma City beating Detroit 119-103 on Wednesday night. Also kind of a weird game. A little bit of funkiness in that one. It felt very similar to the game the Thunder played in Detroit like a month ago. Oklahoma City went up early, Detroit punched back, and then Oklahoma City kind of separated for the most part down the stretch. It got a little hairy towards the end, but overall kind of we're in control. Statistically, pretty similar to tonight. Taylor, you touched on this when we were breaking down the Houston game, but didn't shoot great from 3. Not a lot of bench contributions. You had 14 total points off the bench, 4 from Kenny, 5 from Hart, 5 from Joe. the bulk of the scoring came from the big three. 33 from Shea, 23 from Dub, and 22 from Chet. But Oklahoma City looked more in control in that game than they ever did tonight against the Rockets. And I think that was the biggest difference. Statistically, right? Like in the weeds, there's some similarities, but Oklahoma City looked more like themselves against Detroit than they did tonight against Houston.
Yeah, and you got a normal offensive games from Kaysen and Lou Dort as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the
Great
defense was there, right? I mean, not the entirety of the game, like we've become accustomed to during this stretch. The Thunder, I think just now, tonight's game broke their 11-game win streak.
Yep, that's right.
Which is kind of crazy.
It is crazy. Oklahoma City tonight, you mentioned it, Taylor, forced 15 turnovers, but a lot of those came late. Against Detroit, they forced 19 while only committing 10. That is much more like this Thunder team has performed the rest of the season.
Yeah. And I think it also a good example of what we talked about with Chet from tonight. The 3-point shot was falling, but not a lot else. Like I almost said last night, but last game, Wednesday night, Chet had 22, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, 7 of 14 from the floor, but was 0 of 5 from 3.
0 of 5.
Yet still had his 2 steals and 6 blocks.
That was as close to a complete game that we've gotten from Chet, but the threes weren't there. It's like exactly. So that's why tonight was promising from Chet. If he can get more confidence in that 3-point shot and then put it all together again, we're talking about a dangerous team and obviously dangerous player. But I'm kind of curious to your all's thoughts. I talked about this when we broke down the Rockets game. We didn't see much of this lineup tonight. Lou Dort, J-Dub, Chet, Shea, Kaysen Wallace, or now Caruso mixed in there. That's why I don't know. Mark Coach's game very, I don't know if safe's the right word. That's what I'm thinking.
But he didn't throw out these kind of lineups that I think could have forced a comeback against a team like the Rockets, right?
Yeah.
And it sounds like an excuse, but it does feel to me almost like he was saving some of that.
Yeah, totally agree. A funny observation I had in the Pistons game is that you could tell Cade was out. Several of their players were suspended from getting in a brawl, and you could just tell that the guys that were playing were like, "Don't get in the fight! Don't get in the fight! Don't get in the fight!" Like Jalen Duran,
like B-ball Paul.
Yes, Dennis Schroeder.
Yes,
jawing. They're gonna wheel Isaiah Stewart into their first playoff game in the Hannibal Lecter outfit with his face covered. Like, oh my God,
Schroeder getting upset about the Thunder trying to score with 30 seconds left was wild.
That's crazy.
Bizarre.
Very.
Yeah. Shout out to Detroit. Made the playoffs for the first time.
They're doing great. They're having a great year.
Clinched the spot tonight, I think.
So we talked about that kind of a gritty game against Detroit, where the Thunder just finally due for one of these games heading into the playoffs. And to kind of tonight, talking about tonight's game with Houston. And is this maybe a positive heading into this final stretch of games and then heading into the playoffs? Like, do they kind of need this wake-up call?
Yeah, and now they better not lose to the Lakers because that'll be annoying. This same thing better not happen. They better not get out-efforted by Luka Doncic and 40-year-old LeBron. You know, I would like to see a rebound.
I don't know that, you have to lose a game to learn lessons. But I don't think it's a bad thing to reset a little bit and acknowledge your vulnerabilities, right? That's what I was trying to kind of prod at with the question. Some people in the chat were telling us we were pearl clutching, but like that wasn't the point of the exercise. The point was like what weaknesses are there? Because there's not a lot, and we haven't had to talk about them much this season because this team's won 64 games. And so a night like tonight gives you an opportunity to evaluate that. As much as we're talking about it and other fans are talking about it, the team is talking about it and looking at it. Not that they aren't doing that during wins, but I think a loss gives you an opportunity to poke a little deeper, get a little uncomfortable, and see where those weaknesses are heading into the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised to see them split with LA in that little 2-game series. And I don't think that would be a bad thing either. I think overall, what you don't want to be doing is like chasing the fake majestic 70 number, right? Like winning 70 games would be a dope achievement, but it doesn't matter. And this team would tell you that, right? Like that's not
They
the
have
point.
told us this over and over.
They have over and over. But like you look at the 73-9 Warriors, I think they fell victim to that, right? They were having a little bit of a taller task, right? Because they were trying to literally break a record. I think they extended themselves chasing some wins late in the season that they maybe wouldn't have had there not been that pressure to break a record on it. So I'm glad to see the Thunder not that I thought they ever would, but not trying to chase this like, ooh, we need to get to 70 wins. Like, I know that'd be really fun for fans. It'd be fun for us. It'd be cool to talk about, but it doesn't matter. So like, don't overextend yourself trying to get some weird regular season win total when the entire point of the season is coming in a few weeks.
And also, the Thunder aren't going to sweep every single team in the playoffs. In fact, they might
tap the brakes, Taylor. 16-0, here we come.
Still possible, just like 70 wins is possible for tonight's game, right? But, I think that's a great point. It's a good example of what they're going to expect in the playoffs. They'll readjust. And then my hope, kind of looking ahead, is like what you mentioned, Silva. They come out against the Lakers, that first game of what we call a baseball series, 2 home games back to back, even though it's not a Sega Bala. But hopefully they come back, refocus from a defensive standpoint, and then hopefully we also see, especially at home, some of these role players step up and hit shots.
It'll be good opportunity to drive some national narrative. Again, not that matters either, but the noise has gotten loud around this Thunder team. Everybody wants to have a take in those 2 games on Sunday and Tuesday against the Lakers. Going to have a lot of eyeballs. The first one, that Sunday matinee, 2:30 tip. That one's not on ABC, NBA TV.
NBA TV. Yeah.
That's weird. Oh, is it? No, it's not March Madness related. That's weird.
It is weird. Yeah.
Just for funsies, I guess.
Everybody has a take right now, and a lot of them are total shit.
Well, it's one of those things. Whenever a team is as far in front as the Thunder or as far ahead in the MVP race as Shea, you've got to manufacture excitement to keep people engaged, and that's exactly what ESPN's doing. Like,
not even excitement, just generate discussion and try and
make it seem like it's a race.
Exactly.
Yes.
Which is why we had the ridiculous article today about Nikola Jokic and his defense. Yeah, McMahon and Chris, I forget his last name.
But Taylor, have you heard about how many balls Jokic kicks?
Sounds like Draymond Green, Justin. He kicks a lot of balls too. Maybe he has a case for Depoy after all. Just pretty
defensive BPM. Everyone knows that's a good stat.
Yeah.
Balls
There's
per minute.
A lot of things to debunk that. Go and look at my retweets. But I think that's why, like, for Thunder fans, especially in our Discord, we talked about the Patreon. Be sure to subscribe to the Patreon, join the Discord. There's so much frustration about losing a game like tonight. It's not that the world's ending and the Thunder aren't going to win a championship now because of tonight. It's the stupid national narratives that we all get so wrapped up in. And there's all the push for Lou Dort should deserve Depoy, and then he had a really bad game defensively. And Shea is MVP, but after the 60-point triple-double that Jokic had last week, he's kind of struggled in comparison to what he's been doing recently. Like, that's the frustrations from Thunder fans.
Yep.
Don't get wrapped up in it. This is a special team. We have so much to look forward to.
I'm putting a tariff on ESPN.
20% across the board, or
I was going to say a 45% hike on garbage takes.
Yeah. Let's tamper.
That might actually do this nation some good.
Let's tamper down the Draymond Green self promotion of his potential Depoy award.
But Silva,
insane.
This might be his last chance.
Insane that it worked. It's insane that it actually worked.
He literally said on ESPN with Malika Andrews that this might be my last chance to get a Depoy award. I'm just like, oh my gosh.
It's insane. As much as I would love to see the Thunder do that, I'm really glad that they don't just like shamelessly promote themselves in that manner. the organization is focused on what's ahead. And
Winning.
speaking of what's ahead, the playoffs are coming. Much like winter. Winter's not coming anymore. What? Anywho, make sure you're subscribed to the Uncontested wherever you get your content. We've got a lot coming for the playoffs.
I was trying to read your mind if you wanted the music or not.
Yeah, well done. You're picking up what I'm putting down. Like Taylor said, we're working on planning a watch party with our friends at Prairie Artisan Ales, so be on the lookout for that. Got some more fun stuff in the works. Probably going to make some stickers. Maybe we'll make some stickers of Nick Gallo in various outfits that we can hand out when we see some of the degenerates at the Paycom Center come playoff time. So it's going to be a blast. Make sure you stick around for all of it. We're going to be back Sunday night with the squad breaking down the Lakers game, the first of two, and looking ahead to the last week of the Thunder regular season. So don't miss out. Until next time, and as always, Thunder up.